And welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I call to order the Clackamas County Board of Commissioners this February 11th, 2016. I'll ask Mr. Krupp, our County Administrator, to take our roll.
Well, good morning, Commissioners. We are joined this morning with Mr. Chris Storey, representing County Counsel, and, of course, Mary Rathke, our Clerk of the Board. So I'll start with Commissioner Smith.
Here.
Commissioner Savas.
Here.
Commissioner Schrader.
Here.
Chair Ludlow.
Here. Commissioner Bernard is excused for another meeting. Noel, please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And the first order of business is public testimony. I should say citizen communication, as it were. And I have two people, Les Poole and Baldwin Vanderbilt. Either one of you can go first.
I'll go ahead. I'll be done in less than 3 minutes. I have to announce that ahead of time. There's a couple issues out there, and obviously one of them is the situation with the library. I think this gentleman might be here to talk about it. Given where the library was a couple of years ago, there's been a lot of effort to do something in Gladstone that would better work for Oak Grove. And had the original plan to invest $10 million in a library on Webster Road, had that gone forward, the people in Oak Grove would be jumping up and down. As it is, it's not a problem or a situation that we can't make work. And we keep hearing about outreach. We hear about outreach because here we are 2-3 years down the road and folks show up and say, what's going on here? And sometimes I think the county's outreach isn't that good. Sometimes it is. And with the library, it's been out there. It's been here. It's certainly an issue that didn't suddenly sneak up on us at the last minute. So hopefully we'll get some resolution there and move forward. My other issue, of course, the roads. I do appreciate that issue is getting some attention. It's on the agenda. I attended the session on Tuesday, and we're seeing some ideas. My thoughts are that because you haven't quite got it honed into something yet, and whatever comes out, whatever you present and however you present it to the folks, if it's not really thought through and we get in a hurry, it'll backfire on us in May. And I'm the first person to say, let's get something on the ballot. Let's get something on the ballot as quick as we can. But let's make sure that we don't rush to May and then end up trying to educate people at the ballot box, which I heard the other day, and I got concerns about that. That's a discussion that maybe needs to go a little farther. And one of the parts about outreach, one of the concerns that people, or one of the issues that happens is we have a advisory vote. The public doesn't really know what that means. And they don't understand it's binding. Or maybe there's not as much campaigning for or against something because after all, it's only an advisory vote. So whatever you do, please stay after this. I'm not going to stop talking about it. It's an emergency if there ever was one. My 3 minutes are up and I'm 2 seconds over. Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Poole. You know that this week we voted for an advisory vote in May. On the 18th at our evening business meeting, we decided to have a hearing and let people come forth and testify on what they would like to see. And we, at that time, we will have, by Tuesday of next week, some proposed questions. I think the question or questions, we don't know yet, will be very clear. Good. And I also know that people, despite our education efforts, we've been doing this for 2 years, do not pay attention to an issue until they're forced to vote on it. So we're asking them to vote on it. And I do think that the advisory vote in May can be used as an education. I just think there's a lot of competition for messaging because there's so much noise out there. I would be remiss in my duty not to put out, I feel, 2 votes, an advisory in May and a true vote in November, because the people need to understand that we need to reinvest in our roads. We need their input on what they think should be done. And frankly, this generation of voters today needs to leave the place they lived in better off than where they found it. And I really believe that to be true. Now, as far as your words here today, I appreciate them because it sounds like you're in support of us. But however, I'm not sure that's totally true. And as things play out, I would like to know if you're going to be in support of us or not. Because we answered your call by saying we're going to put this out to the voters. Now, I'm putting it on you to help us in this effort for support.
Commissioner Savas.
Well, Les, I'm going to agree quite a bit with what Commissioner Smith just said. I may not really put you on the spot as much, but I think that you were there. You were there on Tuesday when we had this discussion, and I also, what became clear when you were there was that the 3 of us that voted for the advisory vote have a different idea what that question ought to be or how many questions ought to be. So I'm hoping we can come to an agreement soon on what that would be. I personally believe it ought to be 1 question. And I know that's a policy question. Should you even do that? Should you even have an advisory vote? And I think properly structured, we should, and I can understand the policy question. But the financial aspect of it is that we're spending $150,000 a year, and the answer comes back that majority, 60, 70% of the people don't know that our roads are in bad shape, and they think they're in good shape. So it seems to me that dollar for dollar, we have a financial obligation to get the message out, or an opportunity here to save the voters some money by using this opportunity for pennies on the dollar, comparatively speaking, to get the message out in an advisory form to say, should we seek funding? I think it should be 1 question. It'd be short and sweet, and it brings out that message. So I think, I would like to see, not put you on the spot here today per se, but come next Thursday when we have that hearing, is bring some ideas forward, something that you think you could support, and others. And I would ask that to everyone who's watching today, watching this, is bring some ideas you think we ought to do towards a solution.
Thank you, and I will. I talked briefly with Barbara Cartmill and said, this is something I'll certainly give you my thoughts. And to respond to Tootie, we haven't seen a final thing yet, so.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I realize you're not, no, I don't feel like I'm being put on the spot. You folks are on the spot all the time. I'm up here doing what I think's the right thing to do, and so it's really not personal. This is not a Republican or a Democrat issue. This is not a, oh, somebody's going to benefit from light rail, and we don't agree with that. This is a problem we're all stuck with, and it's only going to get worse. Famous last words. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good morning, Chair Ludlow and Commissioners. I'm Baldwin Vanderbyle. I'm the Chair of the Oak Grove Community Council, and I've lived in Oak Grove for 37 years. I have two concerns related to libraries. Measure 3-310, dealing with county libraries, was passed by the voters in 2008. Part of it reads, all of the monies shall be spent on library operations and services. It also says, the library district shall be governed by the Board of County Commissioners and advised by an independent citizens committee. Plans have been made to spend these monies on capital projects, which is forbidden by the measure. Since the BCC is the governing body and the committee is advisory, it seems to me that the BCC should make sure that the monies are spent according to the measure, ballot measure. And the second thing has to do with governance of the proposed Oak Lodge Gladstone Library. I think it's a Frankenstein. The reason? Gladstone City has a population of about 11,000, and the population of the proposed Oak Lodge Gladstone Library service area is about 40,000. That means that when it comes to voting on library issues or on voting for elected officials who will be making library decisions, only about 25% of the citizens will be able to participate and vote. That means that about 75%, 29,000 people, citizens, will have no say. This appears to be a clear case of taxation without representation. One way to avoid this is to create a self-standing Oak Lodge Library District or a Gladstone Oak Lodge Library District. The Oak Grove Community Council looks forward to working together to ensure that our citizens have access to a high-quality library. That's our main goal. And that as tax-paying and voting citizens, we will not be disenfranchised. Thank you.
Thank you, Baldwin. The thing about it is there is a library board. It is not us. That board is, in a sense, self-governing. For example, if any of those library members felt that something was being done wrong out there, and really, truthfully, anybody thought that anything was being done wrong out there, they would go before this board, and the board would decide by a 2/3 majority, by the way, they'd have to decide that truly something is wrong out there. So I suggest that any complaints you might have should go to them. We are distributors of money. The agreement was that each city would get $1 million towards their libraries, and that $1 million would be used for capital. That's true. Now, in a sense, Gladstone used the first $1 million for capital because there was a design for the library that will not be done at that original site. The question of whether library revenue can be used for capital projects is unclear. It's not as clear as you think it is. I don't think it says in there you cannot use it for capital. And therein lies the rub. We've had our legal staff look at that, and they said it really doesn't say you can or you can't. Now, this is not the first library that will be using library revenue for capital. It's happened before. So do we call them all in and say, you done wrong? We're not going to do that. If somebody feels that they've done wrong, I strongly suggest they go to the library district board, not us. Now, as far as equity, fairness, remember about 1.5 years ago, and you were there, we went through a lot in regards to the library, and it really kind of settled down. As witnessed on Tuesday when we discussed this, there's still a lot of angst out there, and we, I guess, are slated to hear from people come next Thursday night during a very busy night that I suspect will be going until midnight on because we have other matters. The point of the matter is you heard us say that both of the library boards, now not the district board, of course, that both the library boards should be combined. My suggestion was, and it was agreed upon by the commission, that it should be in a commensurate side, because remember, in the agreement, the IGA, it says a proportional share. Now, I'm big on proportion. I can do simple division, and it certainly appears, as you say, that 75% the people that Gladstone will serve are in the unincorporated area. So those two should be combined and be proportional, and it'll be some interesting meetings. So I think that they're going to do that. I've reached out to several counselors at Gladstone, and I think they want to work hand in hand. The truth of the matter is, the library ain't never going to be big enough, according to some. It's not ever going to be in the right location for some. And it will not be the right design for some, and it will not have enough reading rooms. It'll just not be right. But the point of the matter is right now, we don't have the wherewithal to create a separate library in the Oak Lodge area. You know, every commissioner up here has said Oak Lodge, Oak Grove, Jennings Lodge, et cetera, need to become a city. It's the densest area in the metropolitan area, and yet they're not a city. So unfortunately, those folks, and I grew up in Oak Grove, continue to want us to treat them as if they're a city. And that's tough financially. We don't get revenue sharing for that area. And you want, in a lot of ways, people down there want a little bit of autonomy. Well, that's a little tough, again, especially when we're combining services for you in another city. If there's a way that we could actually create a library in Oak Grove, Oak Lodge, we'd probably do that. But we gave them an agreement in Gladstone. We said that even if Oak Lodge, Oak Grove, Jennings Lodge were to become a city, that they would still have this revenue until they retired their bond. And they will have to bond. It'll be a revenue bond, of course, to build this library. The concern and angst that I have, as expressed on Tuesday, is the combination of a cop shop, city hall, and a library. I have concerns about that. I think the location is great. However, it's not that far, considering, as I said on Tuesday, Oregon City, for example, that serves a huge area and 55,000 people. And they drive a heck of a lot longer than somebody on Park Avenue that wanted to drive to Gladstone in order to use the library. We want to avail the services of a library to everybody in the county, and it's been tough to do. So we were really leaning on Gladstone to carry this forward in good faith, and we've had assurances that'll happen. Commissioner Savas.
Well, this has been a recent hot issue, and last night I attended a meeting in which, Baldwin, you were there, as well as actually 4 city councilors from Gladstone were there, and the city manager was there, and we had a pretty robust discussion. I think I need to maybe add on a few things to what Chair Ludlow said in order to put a little bit of balance into this, and that is that there's 2 entities. I tried to point that out on Tuesday. There's 2 entities that have responsibilities here. There's the Board of County Commissioners in the capacity of the Board of County Commissioners, and there's the Library District Board, who are also the Board of County Commissioners, but have distinct responsibilities in this. And as I spoke to legal counsel yesterday, and also staff, is that I asked the question, when was the last time that the Board of Directors for the library met in that capacity, the Library District Board? And we haven't. And no one can name a time when we have met. So in a sense, we've been somewhat, it's a powerful word, I don't want to use, but in a sense, we haven't really met our obligations to meet as a library board. And I think I'm asking for that. I'm requesting that we meet as a Library District Board, primarily an executive session, because it's not as simple as what you just heard. And I think we also need to put in a little bit of vision in this as well. I think we need to have a little bit of vision and think positively what can happen. But more importantly, the issue at hand is that the roles about distribution of money in that 2011 IGA basically says that the enforcement is done by an advisory board, and you read the language in there. It's supposed to be a citizen advisory board, and come to find out, even just a couple nights ago, after the Tuesday discussion we had with the board, that the group of people we're relying on to do the enforcing isn't properly composed. I mean, so they can't even do what they're asking to do, and so we can't just turn a blind eye to that. We got to recognize that. So I'm asking that the board meet as soon as possible, the Library District Board, which is us, in that capacity, meet and discuss this, because we can't say that, blindly say that, it's up to them to do it, and yet we realize they don't have the capacity to do it, and they're not properly formed to do that. And that we never notified them of that responsibility formally. We were supposed to do that following the meeting July 8th of 2014. That was the day that we said we need to reach out to these folks and they need to opine on what we're doing. So we clearly have conflicts. I think there's plenty of blame and mistakes to go around, but we need to address this, and I think we need to do it in a very balanced way, and I'm trying to provide balance in this discussion. And we went till 9:30 last night. It was a long meeting, and I appreciate everyone's input. And I don't think there's any one silver bullet, but I do think that everyone has a better understanding of those obligations, and I'm still learning. I don't know everything, but I'm still learning, and we need to, I'm looking forward to a community discussion about that as well in the near term. But thank you for bringing that forward, and this ain't over.
Mr. Storey, are we the Library District Board?
Yes, you are. You're the governing body of the Library District of Clackamas County.
The governing body.
Yes.
But the board we discussed was a district board.
That is the District Advisory Board. They're appointed by you, nominated by the member cities, and the IGA between the library district and the cities calls for that body to be the enforcement mechanism for the IGA that handles the distribution of funds from the library district to the 9 library cities in Clackamas County.
It's not just a distribution of funds, it's certainly where, as I described, where complaints go too, correct?
Yeah, it's surrounding the utilization of the funds.
Correct.
And service levels.
Why wouldn't
all
they
that.
meet first before we had to meet? I mean, if we're supposed to take their advice, that means they meet first, does it not?
They're supposed to recommend actions, and actually they're empowered to go beyond advisory when it comes to addressing challenges reflecting the IGA. That's in section 4.14.
And their decisions, in other words, would be final and not advisory to us?
That is a matter of some debate. Some of the cities have asserted that the position of the advisory body would then have to be taken out to each city, and that the 2/3 vote would be a 2/3 vote of each city council to amend the IGA.
Well, I strongly believe that what we need to do is have that body meet first. If we have to tell them to meet, we're going to do that. But I'm not going to sit up here without any advice from the advisory body and just determine what shall happen. So I have not heard what Commissioner Savas just said, that we shall or should meet as a library district board, and I'm unwilling to do that until this board meets and tries to give us some advice, because I think that's their job. Commissioner Schrader.
I better put on my microphone first. I just did. So someone who's been involved in libraries for many years, and actually is one of the reasons I ended up where I am today. It was largely my involvement years ago because Canby needed to have a library that was bigger and better for its community. One of the things that I worry about is that when you look at both libraries in Gladstone right now, and if you look at our Clackamas library, the fact of the matter is they're substandard. So nobody is getting really the full depth and breadth of what a really good libraries would be for their constituents. So I'm just saying to folks, keep your eye on that particular prize. Neither is really giving you any of our citizens, whether they're in a city or in they're not, the level that you deserve and that you want to have. I'm just going to let folks know on Friday I'll be meeting with the library board directors at their regular meeting in Lake Oswego because they all get together. What happens sometimes is that those folks have to be careful what they say because they are employees of a particular city. But what I would like to get from them, and I'm going to ask this, as experts, what would they suggest? But I don't want to get them into trouble with their various cities because, quite frankly, they are not our employees. But sometimes in situations like this, it's not a bad idea to go to the people who, number one, provide the service, number two, have had the years and years and years of training to provide a service and have a love of libraries as the premier American institution that it is. I felt sad when the initial Gladstone piece fell through for whatever reason that was, and that's water under the bridge. I think we can figure something out that's equitable and fair, because for me, I don't care if the child is in Gladstone or in the unincorporated urban area. All I care about is that child has a place to go with a parent so they can get their books, that they can get story time, that they can do, the song programming that libraries do to help language development and brain development. I care about the people who are looking for a job, who don't have access to a computer and need a library forum where they can have that so they can succeed in life. I want to have libraries where senior citizens can go there and enrich their lives as they retire, or have that be part of what they do, to read and to learn. I want to have libraries that provide not just books, but ebooks, okay? The other media, videos, and the other media that's available that we now use for information access. What I just want to say is that's really the eye on the prize, okay, for all of us at this point. And I think the library directors, in my opinion, could probably help with this as well. They meet regularly as professionals across the entire county because of who they are and what they do. One of the suggestions I came up with the other day, and I don't even know if it's viable, but as you know, the model up in Sandy is that they have a city library located in Sandy. They also operate the Hoodland Library. The difference is, of course, Hoodland's farther away. As the chair pointed out yesterday, really that's more of a library that is up the mountain. We're dealing with, in your area, much more density. So do you really need a satellite, or can we just find the right spot to do it where everybody has access to it given the density? I don't know the answer to that, but I'm going to ask that question tomorrow. I will tell you that I think everybody on this board supports libraries and would like to see this resolved one way or the other. And I would like to say to the city of Gladstone and to the unincorporated areas of our citizens that we represent that we would like to see you work this out, because you are important to all of us, whether you're in a city or out of a city. So I don't know what else to say. I like the satellite idea if that's going to solve the problem and people will feel more ownership. Or even if you could come out with a mutual place that's not actually even in the city, although I think a library on Portland Avenue in Gladstone would help revitalize their whole downtown core in a way and actually give them a sense of community. But I also understand that there's this feeling that the other folks outside of the city are feeling disenfranchised and underserved. So I'll get back to folks on what I hear on Friday morning about this, but please keep the ultimate eye on the prize as we go through this process, which is service to everybody.
Commissioner Savas?
So, Chair, I think what Mr. Vanderbilt is trying to communicate in his statement was that the ballot measure language is such that the advisory, it defines what the composition of this advisory board is supposed to be, which last night we agreed to call LDAC, and that was pointed out by Counselor Steve Johnson from Gladstone. So we agreed last night, for sake of discussion, that in that dialogue we were talking about LDAC. And what I'm trying to
What does LDAC mean? I'm sorry. What does that mean?
Library District Advisory Committee. Okay. And what we're trying to point out, I'm trying to point out today, is that they don't even have they don't even have a legal quorum to meet. because they're not properly composed of, and I talked to Mr. Barth and Laura Zentner this morning about that, and there's not disagreement about that. So that's part of the reason I think that the board of the library district, us, needs to meet because we can't rely upon a group that can't even legally meet. And the other point I try to make, which I'll try to make again here, is that just like you, and I don't disagree, you have always said that if an advisory board has communication they want to send it to us in writing, and I think coming out of that July 8th meeting, we asked them to do something, or we relied upon them to do something. We should have sent them the correspondence then to advise us on this particular situation, and we haven't done that. And then other boards have sent us correspondence that never made it to us, and so that's the issue here. The issue is, the main issue really is, we need to have that group, the Library District Advisory Committee, properly composed of what it was supposed to be by, and even Councilor Steve Johnson admitted that he didn't meet the criteria, and he admitted in the room last night that he was going to step back and they're going to try to bring someone forth that meets the criteria and the language as originally composed of, and we need to do that with all. So this group can't even meet for a little bit of a while until they're properly notified and we approve them and go through all the process. But I think there's some legal issues, and that's why I think that that library district board, the elected library district board, us, meet soon to discuss some of these details.
We've got a lot of information that hasn't been shared with the commission. I'm sure that there's some legal ramifications. I'm sure we'll be talking with Mr. Barth and other people to determine how we go forward, if we go forward, and if we go forward, how we do that. But right now, it's just a smattering of information about what should or could have been and how supposedly we all failed in July of last year. I don't know why, if somebody knew something was supposed to happen then, that it didn't happen then. And I don't know that we knew anything was supposed to happen then, but we're willing to look into it, I'm sure, to see what our obligations are and what other people's obligations are as we go forward in regards to the Gladstone Library. We will take legal counsel advice on how to proceed, and also our director, Mr. Barth. But I appreciate you bringing about such great discussion today, Baldwin. Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
And now we're going to have a little bit of a video. I'd like to share with the public a short video in a series that we produce as part of our outreach around the county's need for employment lands. It reiterates why employment land is so important to this commission and this county. I said it'd be short, didn't I?
That's a very nice video. Who
Our
did
county
that?
has a shortage, our PGA did that. Our county has a shortage of approximately 1,100 acres of available industrial development or job-producing lands. Finding land to create new long-term job growth is challenging when regional land use goals are at odds. And we're talking metro here, folks. You can learn more about this important topic by following the county's Facebook, or Twitter account, and be sure to check out our, quote, land to grow jobs, end quote, webpage for full information. That's off of the front page at www.clackamas.us. We will now recess as the Board of County Commissioners and convene as the Estacada Area County Service District for Library Services for the next item. Mr. Krupp.
Yes, Mr. Chair, this is a consideration of a board order that would adopt findings of fact and a plan of dissolution for the Estacada Area County Service District for Library Services. Mr. Chris Storey will give you a staff report on this.
Good morning, Commissioners. So this is not the larger library district. This was the library district that was formed quite a while ago in support of the City of Estacada's desire to construct a new library. Rather than trying to bond just within the city limits, they were desirous of having the people that would utilize that library to be able to contribute to its construction. So the county agreed to form this service district, which was coterminous with the boundaries of the Estacada School District. The vote was then taken to pass a general obligation bond. That money was used to construct the current Estacada Library, and we were in the process of collecting revenues and paying it off when the idea of the new countywide library district came along. And as Chair Ledlow mentioned, most libraries were offered the opportunity to receive $1 million out of the general fund to support capital improvement. For Estacada, instead, that money was deposited in an account to pay off the debt on behalf of the taxpayers of the district, so their taxes were reduced for the new library that they had already invested in. However, that debt was not payable until 2015. So just last year, we were able to fully pay off the debt and retired the accounts. We've wound up everything that was outstanding. The district now has no debt, very little money, and no purpose. So we had this conversation first on January 14th. You convened as this board and initiated the dissolution process. We've published notices. This is the second step of that process, where as the Estacada governing body, you are adopting certain findings of fact regarding the debt and uses of funds that the district has, its assets, et cetera, and adopting a plan of dissolution that says what you will do. And this plan of dissolution deals with the idea that we will convey the asset to the city of Estacada so that they will own the library and the city will manage and operate it. The small amount of money left over from collections for payment of the debt, which is about $13,000, would be directed to the library network to support library services. And the small amount, I believe a little over $100 of debt that is still owed to the district of uncollected taxes that were levied back prior to 2009, if those are ever paid, will be directed to the library district of Clackamas County. And that is what the matter before you would accomplish.
All right, Commissioners, any questions of Mr. Storey? All right, I'll open the public hearing, and I do have a card up here from Michelle Kinnaman.
Good morning. My name is Michelle Kinnaman. I am the Director of Estacada Public Library. The City of Estacada and Estacada Public Library enthusiastically support the proposed dissolution of the Estacada Area County Service District. The district was an important step in helping to provide the citizens of Estacada and Clackamas County with a beautiful and functional library facility. Over 8,000 registered cardholders use our library, and in the last full fiscal year, the Estacada Public Library tallied more than 200,000 circulations. This level of service would not have been possible without the construction financed by the district. Our library receives visitors from throughout Oregon and the United States, and also internationally. They have all expressed admiration for our welcoming and lovely library. With the debt fully retired, however, the district's continued existence provides no benefit to the citizens. Accordingly, the City of Estacada and Estacada Public Library support Clackamas County Board of Commissioners executing the proposed plan and taking the steps necessary to most expeditiously and efficiently dissolve the district. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Smith?
I've been out to the Estacada Public Library many times. I've had meetings there. It is a beautiful facility, and it fits the nature and the culture of the area. I just can't say enough about it. And you say you have 8,000 cardholders, but in this case, in a rural area, it also provides a place to be. People can go there and use their meeting room. It's very large, very accommodating. And there's big doors that open out to a little pond in the back. And it's just a nice, nice place. And this is a prime example of when citizens make up their mind that they need something. They asked us for help, and we did it. And now it's paid off and you're done. And I think you are an example to those other districts in the county who are still struggling to figure out what to do. And thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have had occasion to be in the Estacada Library as well. It's a beautiful facility. And as Tooties mentioned before, the people working there were very friendly. And, libraries tend to be so quiet, and probably populated by people who like the same. But it wasn't the quietness. It was just the fact that they were very friendly and approached me versus me approaching them. Commissioner Schrader.
I just remember being there for the ribbon cutting when it was first built, and it's Cascadian style. It's kind of the architectural style is this, it's like this Northwest Cascadian architecture. It's really quite beautiful. So.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to close the public hearing and ask for a motion.
I move we approve the board order adopting the findings of fact and plan of dissolution for the Estacada Area Service District for Library Services.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Schrader. Further discussion? Well, what's nice is for once, we won't be another board. We get to eliminate one board that we are, and we're so many different boards. This one actually is gone. That's interesting, finally. All right, any further discussion? I'll ask the clerk to call the poll.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Chair Ludlow?
Aye, passes 4-0. I'll announce the board will adjourn as the Estacada Area County Service District, because they ain't no more, and reconvene as the Board of County Commissioners. Mr. Krupp.
So this is the second public hearing of the morning, and it's related to the first public hearing. This is a consideration of a board order to adopt certain findings, an agreement to serve as trustees, and declaring the dissolution of the Estacada Area County Service District for Library Services. Again, Mr. Chris Storey is going to provide the staff report for this.
Indeed. Good morning again, Commissioners, and you are absolutely correct. That previous adjournment was the last time you would ever sit as the Estacada Library District Board. This comes to you now in your role as the boundary authority for special districts within Clackamas County. The statute anticipates normally for districts that are looking for dissolution that they were likely an ongoing concern, and it wants to make sure that everything is done properly so it looks to the board as a separate authority to make sure that the districts are gracefully exiting their existence. Normally, in a dissolution, it would actually require a vote. However, there are some special provisions that allow county service districts, if there are particular findings of fact made by the Board of County Commissioners sitting in that capacity, to be dissolved without a vote. And this is one of those times when we fit squarely within the statute and we can, without a vote, dissolve your district. The proposed order in front of you would authorize the findings of facts, which include first that it is in the best interest of the county that the dissolution go forward and that the library district is no longer necessary for the purposes for which it was formed. I think we can clearly and honestly say those are both true. It also asks the Board of County Commissioners to accept the role as trustees and to direct their staff to execute the plan of dissolution, which we've discussed and was adopted in the previous order, and then declares the dissolution effective. Although I will note, much like the Princess Bride, it is only mostly dead at that point. In fact, there are the few steps that have to be taken as far as executing the transfers required in the plan of dissolution and the recording of documents with the clerk before it will be completely dead. But it is well on the path, and that is the purpose of this before you.
All right, Commissioners, any questions of Mr. Storey? We'll open the public hearing and see if anyone wishes to speak on this matter. None. Close the public hearing and ask for the motion, Commissioner Smith.
I move we approve the board order adopting certain findings, agreement to serve as trustees, and declaring the dissolution of the Estacada Area County Service District for Library Services.
Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Smith with the motion, Commissioner Schrader with the second, Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, and as Commissioner Smith read the motion, and I can see what was read here, it says agreement to service as trustees. Was it actually the agreement to serve as trustees?
Yes.
Serve. I read serve.
She read
I
serve.
read it correctly.
Okay, it sounded like it.
I read serve.
Okay, yeah, sorry. Thank you. That's all I had was a clarification.
All right. Any further discussion, Commissioners? All right, Mary.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Chair Ludlow.
Aye, passes 4-0. There you go. All right, Mary, I'll ask you to read the consent agenda by title.
Okay. The consent agenda. Under Health, Housing, and Human Services, approval of Re-Credentialing Clackamas County Medical Director, Dr. Andrew Suchocki. Approval of an intergovernmental agreement with the State of Oregon Department of Consumer and Business Services, Oregon Insurance Division, Senior Health Insurance Benefits Assistance. Approval of an intergovernmental agreement with the City of Canby and the Housing and Community Development Division for the North Cedar Street Improvement Project. Approval of a sub-recipient agreement with Northwest Family Services for youth, drug, and alcohol prevention for Oregon City, Gladstone, and Milwaukee. Approval of an agency services contract with Northwest Family Services for evidence-based parenting education classes. Under our Department of Transportation and Development, a resolution declaring the public necessity and purpose for acquisition of rights of way and easements for the Salmon River Elk Park Road Bridge Project and authorizing negotiations and eminent domain actions. Under elected officials, approval of previous business meeting minutes and approval of an intergovernmental agreement between North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District and the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office for cooperative use of North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District facilities as Clackamas County Sheriff's Office reporting stations. Under Technology Services, we have approval of a contract with Unify Inc. for upgrade of the Holman Building HiCom 300 telephone S-Voice server to a high-path open space 4000 V7 voice server.
Wow.
Under County Counsel, we have approval of a release of revisionary interest for a park in the city of Lake Oswego. And under North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District, approval of an intergovernmental agreement between North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District and Clackamas County Sheriff's Office for cooperative use of North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District facilities as Clackamas County Sheriff's Office reporting stations. Under the Water Environment Services, we have approval of an intergovernmental agreement between Clackamas County Service District Number 1 and Metro for the acceptance of the Natural Areas Capital Grants Program Award. Approval of contract documents between Clackamas County Service District Number 1 and Settler Supply Company for the blower system upgrade project, and approval of contract documents between Tri-City Service District and Settler Supply Company for the blower system upgrade projects. And that concludes the consent agenda.
All right, Commissioners, do you need any more information on any of these items or wish to pull them from the agenda? All right, I'll ask for a motion.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Schrader, seconded by Commissioner Savas. Further discussion? Mary?
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Chair Ludlow.
Aye, passes 4-0. And now, the County Administrator update.
Well, I do have a number of things to share with you this morning. First, I wanted to let you know that our Public Health Division, which is responsible for the county's environmental health program, had standardized the effectiveness of its environmental health plan reviews for new restaurants. And I can report that this has reduced the approval process from 30 days to 95% approved in 14 days. So
Wow.
improved performance for better efficiency for staff and certainly increased client satisfaction. So
We
very
need to
happy
put that
report
out there and brag about it a little.
We should, yes. And of course, this is all related to the things that we're measuring and paying attention to under Performance Clackamas as well, very similar. I also wanted to let you know that our YouTube channel, which currently has 160 subscribers, we now have over 64,000 views. When we compare our subscribers to those for Multnomah and Washington County, We're more than them combined. So, so we're doing a good job advancing our outreach efforts through that particular media approach. We do want to invite the public to visit the county's YouTube channel to watch our award-winning videos that showcase our programs and services.
So the way to do that, I guess, is just to go into YouTube and put Clackamas County.
That'll get you there.
That'll
Yeah,
do it.
That'll
Okay.
get you there. You can certainly get to it from our website as well. So.
Okay.
And I received a very nice letter of thanks to our county juvenile department staff regarding from a father whose son benefited from our community-based diversion panel program. This is a service that we offer in partnership with Parrot Creek Child and Family Services, and I just wanted to read to you the letter. Your Lake Oswego diversion panel was simply amazing. All 3 members grasped my son's nervousness immediately, and while remaining firm, were able to put him at ease to ensure they received complete and well thought out answers from him. Referring to the panel as highly professional understates how good they truly are. The rapport they established with my son in such a short time was a beautiful thing to see. Both teenager and parents left the meeting expressing high respect for the panel. Thank you. And so while we're on the subject of our juvenile department, I did want to make an official announcement that I'm very pleased to announce the appointment of Christina McMahon to serve as our new juvenile department director. She comes to us most recently from Multnomah County, where she's served as the Juvenile Services Division Director for the past 4.5 years. She has over a decade of juvenile leadership experience and an impressive track record with developing key partnerships and stakeholders in the community. Prior to her time at Multnomah County, she served as the director of the Douglas County Juvenile Department, and she's also served as the Deputy District Attorney in both Deschutes and Marion County. She's got quite a portfolio behind her. She holds a law degree from Willamette University College of Law. So we're very excited. We're expecting Christina to join us on March the 9th. In the meantime, we still are benefiting from the services of our former, now retired director, Ellen Crawford, and I'm ever so grateful for the efforts that she's given to help facilitate a very smooth transition towards bringing in new leadership for the department. And I'm very happy about the work that she did, and I'm looking forward to the work that Christina is going to do on behalf of the citizens of Clackamas County.
Well, an outstanding choice. We did a meet and greet with the candidates, and Christina's resume just shines. And again, a thanks on the part of this board to an outstanding job by Ellen Crawford. What a great lady to work with on these very important matters regarding juveniles. All right, it's now time for the Commissioner communication. We'll start with Commissioner Schrader.
Well, I have a little bit to talk about here. I had went to the Farm Bureau meeting this morning, and they meet at 7 a.m., colleagues. So it was quite a challenge, but I will admit I didn't get there at 7 a.m. I got there at 7:30, but that is a big improvement. That is a huge improvement for me. And when I was there, I talked about the agricultural investment program that our business and community services folks have pulled together, also cross-laminated timber, and how we are becoming a key player in hopefully seeing if we can get some movement on a supply chain so we're not importing that material from Germany. We're actually hopefully doing it all here. We talked a little bit about our agricultural one-stop that is in the process now of really that platform, which is a virtual information center for anyone or anything to do with farming. And they are also pleased of our support of our extension folks to actually have a presence here on the Red Soils campus in the future. Mike Bondi is a regular attendee and member of the Oregon Farm. Well, actually, it's the Clackamas County Farm Bureau, not the Oregon Farm Bureau. So it is our own local Farm Bureau. It was great to see familiar faces, and I got to tell those folks that my boys are growing hops on Three Rivers Farm, which I'm really pleased that the family farm is going to the family as it should, and that we do understand as a a group here, what farmers have to deal with in order to be successful in today's economy. They were very happy to hear that we keep watching our neighbors to the north in Portlandia in the hopes that that James Beard market happens so we can become suppliers of our local produce and our local goods to this whole region, because Clackamas County has a huge agricultural base which is a significant gives us a significant gross domestic product here in this county. So that was the Farm Bureau piece. I did want to mention that I will be going to the National Association of Counties Colleagues next week, and I will be sponsoring a resolution to ensure counties receive adequate funding for the new Fair Housing Program regulations that the Housing and Human HUD, or Housing Human Development, is implementing. We're also going to work to try and see if we can get some of those regulations loosened up, not to have standards that we won't meet, but to essentially to give us some more flexibility with how we move forward with affordable housing and low-income housing in this state and in this nation. I'll also be moderating a discussion called Second Chances, Safer Counties, Workforce Development and Re-Entry. And so this is really going to be what counties do to help their constituents get back into the workforce and get skilled up. I'll be chairing the Economic Development Subcommittee meeting, and I will be a panelist with the Housing HUD Deputy Assistant Secretary, George Williams, and our own Chuck Robbins to discuss the new fair housing process, and Clackamas County is a pilot county for that. So I'm letting folks know we'll be missing here for a few days, colleagues, but I know that you know I'll be doing the business of the county, and once again showcasing the fact that this county is a leader among counties nationwide. The Tourism Development Council had their retreat yesterday, and we will be meeting with them this afternoon to get a sense of how that went with our good administrator, Don Krupp. As I said, I'll be attending the Library District Advisory Committee meeting tomorrow in Lake Oswego, and that is a coalition of all the librarians who are library board directors. They're not the lay people. They are the actual professionals that work in libraries. So let's bring up arts and culture activities in Clackamas County. Okay, so this is what's going on this week. Clackamas Repertory Theater, Wing It, a storybook love story. The Wing It crew takes on Princess Bride, only to learn that sometimes there might be a lesson greater than true love conquers all. As always, there will be singing, dancing, and a chance for the kids to come up to the stage for their moment in the spotlight. Saturday, February 13th, 10:30 a.m. at the Osterman Theater on the Clackamas Community College campus. Now, I'm going to try and not pronounce this particular name as adequately as I can. Alareza Ali Chagdare Poetry Talk. Ali is a Persian translator and poetry lover, and he will speak on seeing invisible ties between people, or why I translated Walden into Persian and the Rubaiyat into English. That is actually Saturday, February 13th, 3 to 5 p.m. at the Leading Library Pond House in Milwaukee. For more information about anything going on in our county, go to the arts website, clackamasartsalliance.org. My last comment is going to be what happened in Lake Oswego last night. Lake Oswego, it's the 10th anniversary of their Lake Oswego Reads program. Each year, the Lake Oswego Library picks a book and encourages the entire community to read that book. And in conjunction with that, they have like 3 months or more of programs dealing with the topical issues of the book that we've picked. This year, it's Short Nights of the Shadowcatcher, the epic life and immortal photographs of Edward Curtis. Edward Curtis photographed and told the stories of the North American Indian. He collected information about their languages, customs, and traditions. And if he had not taken these photographs as a portrait photographer and actually talked to these folks and got their tapes, it would not have been documented because the tribes at that time were starting to be assimilated into U.S. culture, and their culture would have been lost. Timothy Egan was the author. He was there last night. He came down from Seattle. He is the Northwest correspondent of the New York, I want to say the New York Times, I believe at this point. It was a phenomenal talk, and I would say there was close to over 800 people there at the talk. And so I'll be attending all of their programs through the month. You can go to the Lake Oswego website and find out what they are, but I'm kind of on chapter 3 of the book at this point, and so far it's been fabulous. Once again, Timothy Egan, Short Nights of the Shadow Catcher. Thank you, colleagues, and that's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Savis.
Well, it's been an interesting week when we started off with a discussion around the villages of Mount Hood, and where we basically dissolved the board, not really the hamlet itself. And with all the discussion going on currently with sewer discussions and roads and libraries quite a bit, you know, public involvement is one of the things that I've really been a big believer of. It is so vitally important that we listen and provide opportunities for public input. And there's a few areas where we need to strengthen that. And I know we have a lot of committees for libraries, but you know, actually communicating with them and actually listening to them and opening those lines of communication a little bit clearer, because I was surprised, as many of us are, on some of this information that's been coming about. So I think that's important. Sewer's another big one. I think that we need to hear from our ratepayers out there and provide opportunities for that. And in some areas we do a good job of that. In some areas we really need to strengthen that. But you know, it was very touching to me last night, even though it was a very passionate discussion about libraries. While I was sitting there for the hour and a half, being quiet and listening, and my opportunity to speak came quite late. But I was just, regardless of the fact that there were differing opinions in the room, I was really touched by the sincerity and concern on behalf of libraries. People were there wanting libraries, and really we all wanted the same thing. And how it takes shape, we don't know, but I was impressed by everyone's desire and passion to do that. And I think harnessing that energy in a way that we capture the vision as best we can to make something happen and work cooperatively. And I will say that I was really glad that Gladstone was represented. Again, they had 4 city councilors there last night, plus their city administrator. And it was a very productive conversation, I thought, and they were listening, and they wanted to share that message, that they wanted to listen and participate and work with the community. But we need more of that in areas, and I just don't want to see us fall away and pay attention. We just need to make sure we pay attention to areas where we need to improve that. And so as the work sessions go forward, roads, when we talk next week on roads at Thursday night, we'll have that discussion. I think that's good, and that'll be a discussion, not a hearing. Is that correct, Chair? A discussion versus a hearing?
It is a public discussion.
Okay, great. Appreciate that clarification. I do want to talk about Maggie May. So let's talk about Maggie May.
Maggie May.
Maggie May. Here she is. So this is Maggie May, a sweetie pie with Chihuahua in her jeans. She is friendly and approaches visitors with a wag of her tail and a song in her heart. She loves both a cozy bed and a warm lap. She will be your constant companion and listen to your every word. If you provide the lap and the love, she will provide the devotion. So go see Maggie May today. For more information about Maggie May, it's on the screen, but it's Dog Services, 503-655-8628. Isn't she a doll?
Look at that.
And my closing words, I just want to say that on Sunday it's Valentine's Day, and whether it's your mom or your sweetie pie or your kids or your family, just wish them best. Reach out, touch them, express your love and care for them, and happy Valentine's to all.
All right, Commissioner Smith.
Oh, you're such a romantic, and I didn't know that. Wow.
It hasn't shown itself before. I'm so surprised.
Thank you. We had a briefing on performance Clackamas Clackamas County strategic plan with Health, Housing, and Human Services and the Sheriff's Department. And it was very moving and touching, the goals they set and the language they used. It really elevated the human condition of the folks in Clackamas County. And I'm just going to read one sentence on their plan. And the goal is, focusing on the well-being of our families and communities reflects the best of our character. And this board truly believes that. Some of the things that we found out during this presentation that I, for one, want to address in our budget cycle. We have a juvenile intake center and a juvenile intake and assessment center where youth who possibly the first time, second time get into trouble, you know, they've been mischievous and gee, their activities end up, you know, a police officer takes them in for evaluation. Well, only 50% of our youth get that opportunity. And I say it's an opportunity because at the Intake and Assessment Center, they figure out why they're conducting those errant behaviors. They're evaluated, and they're given assistance to try to correct those behaviors before it becomes so out of hand that they end up in our jails and prisons as adults. And it's really important that I feel that we try to capture ward off criminal activity while they are still young enough and impressionable enough to understand that there is something else to do in life. And it's something that I'm going to work on and follow through during our budget cycle. Additionally, we attended the Oregon City State of the City luncheon hosted by the Oregon City Chamber, and it was quite entertaining and tactful, and message delivered by Oregon City Mayor Dan Holliday. I thoroughly enjoyed it. He made me laugh, didn't take too many pokes at us, so that was a success. I testified in Salem on Monday for the sub-regional land use planning piece of legislation that the county is pushing in Salem, and that's in several bills. My testimony was well received. They were nice and polite. We'll see what happens with that, but we're hoping to get some traction on that. At least we will get attention enough for legislators to understand what we want in Clackamas County. I also met with some senators and representatives about our message, and I'm heading back down this afternoon to do the same. And I will report next week on how that goes. While I was in Salem last Friday, we had an interesting dinner hosted by the Association of Oregon Counties, and it's called Oregon County Caucus, and it's brand new. And it consists of legislators, current legislators who were formerly county commissioners, and there are 5 of those. And it consists of current commissioners who were former legislators, and there were 14 of them, and that falls, that's where I fall as a former legislator. And we met with the Speaker of the House and leadership on both the House and the Senate on both parties to talk about the current legislation. And it was a dinner, a very nice dinner that was in a circle. And we were able to speak candidly based on our experiences, and I thought it was very productive. And I offered my help to Speaker Kotek because she's trying to tackle the issue of affordable housing in Oregon, particularly our county needs help with that. And so I offered up because as the county government, we're the one that delivers the housing services. So it was very productive. She was very welcoming. We disagreed on something, but it was just nice to be able to talk. And I think we need to do that more often. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Well, several things that I went to certainly have already been mentioned. The next week is going to be the grand opening of the North Clackamas Chamber of Commerce new building. We had occasion to see that yesterday, and great location and a lot more room for them. The next week will be our evening business meeting, and it's action-packed. As mentioned, roads will be discussed, and a funding mechanism for that. There'll be some library people here, we have heard, to talk about that, and so it'll be long, as I'd mentioned. In our policy sessions, we went over some potential questions and had a few votes on what question or questions we would ask if we choose to do that in May, but we're running out of time on that. We have to submit something by February 26th, which is coming very fast. We definitely had some decision-making on Gladstone Library. And also Performance Clackamas, we had a meeting on that, part 2. One of the actions we took was, Commissioner Savas had said it was a hamlet. We basically disbanded. It was a village at Mount Hood. We removed the remaining 3 board members. There's going to be a little timeout up there because we went to a meeting and there was a series of 2 successive meetings, of which Commissioner Bernard probably described one of them or both of them as the worst meetings he's ever been to. So we can't let that continue. We do want the villages to be a success, and we need to do some reapportioning as to who represents whom and the decorum involved in that, or the lack thereof. I thought it would be important to let you know that I went down on behalf of the commission and testified in Salem on Monday in regards to a new scheme by TriMet to tax employees, not employers. I'll share some of that testimony with you. I'm frustrated that a transit agency could be granted funding authority from the state legislature to tax employees and for the dollars to come unwillingly out of the paychecks of hard-working people. These dollars will not improve our failing roads, and they will not improve gaps in local transportation funding. In fact, these taxes will buy more buses to drive on those same failing roads. The TriMet plan, and it would be all for all transit districts in the state of Oregon, would be allow them to tax. This is a start, folks, just a start. But if you earn as little as $34,000, you would be paying $64 to TriMet, and it goes up from there. And again, TriMet hasn't exactly let the public know that this is down there in committee, and it was passed out of committee with a no pass or with no recommendation at all. But it is a scheme, as I said. $64, we are praying that each driver in this county would give us $25, and we will cure all of the problems we have with deferred maintenance, which we desperately need. So, but we intend to ask the voters. TriMet has no intentions to do the same. So I'd say that people should pay close attention to this. It's Senate Bill 1521. And again, it is insidious. It starts at this amount, and just like they've done with the employers, it will continue to go up from there. It appears that TriMet has a failing model. They certainly have unfunded promises that they've made to their employees. Their own auditor says they should be putting $90 million a year into that, and they're putting $10 million a year into that. So they're falling further and further behind. They say this is to buy buses, but that certainly frees up money to use elsewhere, and that would be to help fund, I'm sure, their unfunded promises to their employees. So, you know, I think that we have some more testimony to give on that as it heads through the legislature, but it's unfortunate the legislature has not kept with their word when they sent this question to the voters as to whether they should have a mid-session or a short session. The voters said yes, because all they said they were going to do is just tweak some things, to just move, you know, correct things they might have got wrong. This legislative session proves that they're willing to do anything, and in spite of what the voters want. We also took a position against the minimum wage by a 3-2 vote. Because it's one thing, you know, it's got a ripple factor attached with this. You say if you elevate everybody up to $15, that's cool. What about the supervisor right now is making $15, and all of a sudden everybody he supervises is making the exact same dollar as he or she is? Well, what happens is they have to get a raise too. It has been predicted by many, and I think there's a strong sentiment out there that this will cost Oregon jobs, not give Oregon better jobs. And we will see that, I think, based on the T-shirts that I saw down there, and there were many during that legislative day I testified, and on the front it said $13.25. I think that was the start of this minimum wage hike. And on the back it said, automate or relocate. That's what businesses are going to start to do. And there will be many, many people, more people on unemployment, food stamps, and everything else with this raise of minimum wage if it were to go through. Now, I want to talk to you about the State of the County event. The 2016 State of the County event will be held Wednesday, February 17th at 6:30 p.m. here in the board hearing room. I will deliver comments about some of the county's key accomplishments in 2015 and our priorities in 2016. This will be followed by a Q&A session with all of the commissioners. Members of the public are welcome to attend and ask a question. You can also pose a question through the county's social media sites, detailed on the county website at www.clackamas.us. The State of the County will be aired live on the Clackamas County Government Channel and streamed online. Now, pursuant to what Commissioner Savas said about Valentine's Day, that's all great for the people that you are an immediate family, but I've always said that, you know, a kind word, an appropriate compliment goes a long ways in people's lives. So today, if you have the opportunity, and all week, every day, find something good that somebody did and tell them that. It'll change people's lives. Ladies and gentlemen, there being no further business before the Clackamas County Commission this day, this meeting is adjourned.